It is the biggest fight that can be made in all of boxing. There are no two questions about it. Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, is back on the 9th of June against an unknown opponent. If he gets past him and perhaps goes on to beat a couple of top 15 guys and look pretty good in doing so, the prospect of him against Joshua is particularly massive. We have had an all-British heavyweight encounter before. We've had a few. Notably, we had Lennox Lewis against Frank Bruno back in '93. But that wasn't, while there was a lot of fan appeal for that, in terms of legacy, it wasn't that great because Bruno had already been beaten 3 times by Bone Crusher, Witherspoon and Tyson. And Lewis, while he was looking pretty good up until that point, he still had that raggediness about him, and he still had a lot of naysayers. And of course, you had Bo Tyson. There were loads of other factors out there. But if AJ and Joshua fight, AJ's a unified champ, and of course Fury is the lineal champ. It's a real big deal, and a special time to be a British boxing fan. You know, you might have some Americans being begrudged or go, "Oh no, Canelo, Golovkin too, had that happen, that would have been the biggest fight." But it's like, give me a break now. Joshua Fury is the biggest possible fight that can be made here. If it does go on to happen, we don't know if Fury can even get at his best anymore. That's a possibility, and that may factor in how that fight plays out if it happens. I'm talking about, hypothetically, a prime Fury, the guy who was 27 and outpointed Vladimir when he skated around, frustrated him, got in his head. Ugly to watch, but a kind of ugly masterpiece, if you will. How would that Fury have done against this AJ, who's probably basically peaking now and showed some kind of new kind of maturity and layers to his game and outpointing Parker? How would he do that? I think stylistically, these styles gel nicely. Fury is going to be looking to frustrate and box the big stiff idiot robot, as he'd say. Whereas Joshua has got to get stuck in, and he doesn't have to worry about that Klitschko-type power to get stuck in with Fury. But we saw with Joshua, he has that just fuck it mindset, where he will dogfight and get stuck in if need be. In the early goings of the Klitschko fight, he was down. He didn't have control of the fight. He was getting popped and lined up with the right hand, you noticed. And credit to him, he got stuck in and knocked Klitschko down. He would, certainly if he was behind a few rounds against Fury, he would go for it and he would try and make things happen. And as I say, Fury is not as big a puncher as Klitschko, so he would not have to worry of being punished in that way. But movement-wise, that would be a big problem for AJ. There is a distinct possibility with how well and intuitively Fury moves. You know, Huey's got a bit of it as well, but Fury is a bit more assertive than Huey. There's a possibility that could just completely derail Joshua, if we're talking the prime Fury, and could shut him out. If there's one thing about Joshua, it's that stylistically he is basic and he is stiff. You know, that word gets thrown about a lot, but he is. He's a bit stuck in the mud at times, and what he does is nice and neat. Everything he does is nice and crisp, and he's powerful, but it's basic. And when you have a guy who's as tricky and has you for reach and can get in your head like Fury, that might just be the antidote to make AJ not just lose, but look really bad. There's a possibility he could be tailor-made for the Gypsy King. But I do think the styles would go well because Josh would have moments where he'd have to go for it. He would be digging into the body. He would be trying to make things happen. Real classic slippery boxer against a boxer puncher who would be forced to be more of an aggressive type of guy. I'm skeptical of the fight, of Fury being at his best if the fight goes ahead. If it were to happen prime for prime, I would favour the Gypsy King to outpoint Joshua. I just think that strikes me as his Achilles heel. But how do you think that would go? I'm talking prime for prime here. The Gypsy King who outpointed Vladimir and looked, well, it wasn't a nice fight. His movement was very impressive for a guy who's 6'9". And the Joshua of today, who really does want to become the undisputed and would not want to lose face and lose against the Gypsy King after everything that's been said. Who wins this classic British encounter? What do you think?